Oh, that? Yeah, watch my last video if you haven't. Discover why that's just sitting on there. Spoiler alert, it's because it doesn't fit anywhere else. Hello everybody, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. So today, our no, that's a different month beginning with M. Today is our May wrap up. I am very, very excited for the May wrap up because I've read some fantastic books this month. The Asian Readathon went so well. All around some brilliant books to talk about, so I cannot wait to share some of my thoughts, and I'm going to try not to be a disorganised mess for you because I'm that good to you. Way back in the beginning of May I read Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and it feels like a millennia ago. So Spin the Dawn is about this peasant girl who has dreams and aspirations of becoming the greatest tailor she can be, but because she's a female in this society, and this is set in like a Chinese inspired world, she cannot be a great tailor. She can kind of be like a seamstress in the back of a shop, but she cannot be anything of greater aspiration. Her family has been torn apart by the war that's gone through her country, and now she has an opportunity to go to the royal palace and try and be the imperial royal tailor, which would bring in the money that her family desperately needs. But she's a girl, and this is a slight Mulan retelling inspired-esque. It's not like very faithful to Mulan, it's just got that girl trying to be a guy in China and get through without anyone noticing kind of thing. So she dresses and disguises herself as a boy and goes to compete in this contest with a bunch of the best tailors in the land, and there is a big consequences if she's discovered, i.e. death. The thing that really got me about this novel is it goes so much further than that. You think it's going to be this kind of competition plot, but it goes in a complete fantastical, magical, quest-driven direction that I never saw coming, and it's just a magical, whimsical, wild ride full of beautifully lyrical language and plenty of rich characters. And if you like the Mulan-esque story, but if you like things that are also quite poetic, this is going to be a great book for you, and I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I feel slightly bad for this book because after I read this book, I've read another set of books which has just destroyed my mind. I really loved it. I feel like if I'd have reviewed this one or wrapped this one up 3 weeks ago, like, I'd just be more enthusiastic. I think it was a really excellent book, but the book I read next was just so mind-blowing. The poor little Spin the Dawn fell to the wayside from the beginning of May, but that does not take anything away from this book. It was beautiful, it was adventurous, it was magical, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So much so that if you saw my anticipated releases video, then I am desperate to get my hands on the second book. And if you like the sound of any of those things, the magic, the adventure, the Mulan retellingness, if you like Hate to Love, if you love themes of duty and imprisonment and danger and magic and celestial beings and gods, if you love any of the vibes that I'm giving you for this book, I highly recommend it. And Elizabeth Lim, I'm very intrigued to read more of her work. I have an actual Mulan retelling by her, like a more faithful Mulan retelling for the Disney Twisted Tales series. I've got that. After reading this, I'm very excited to read more of her work, especially with the Mulan theme. I'm sorry that I can't give more details because A, I don't want to spoil you. Just know it's magical and brilliant and that's all you need to know. And also B, because like I said, I read it so far at the beginning of May that it's just all gone out my head. Beautiful cover and a beautiful inside to match. Okay, let's get to the meat of why we're here. I mean, I'm always here to do my wrap-ups, but this month I read Shadow of the Fox, Soul of the Sword, and Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. I don't quite know how to put this because I finished reading this series last night and it blew my brains out. Like, it was incredible. I'm still just flabbergasted, mind blown, awestruck, and completely speechless and numb about this series. I just didn't expect to feel this way after I've read these. But let's start this tale from the beginning, and that is with Shadow of the Fox. Now, I read this a couple of years ago, last year, year before, I think it was the year before, and I thoroughly enjoyed it then. I remember really loving this book, being a great fantasy, and upon rereading it, my love for it only grew, you know, understanding what was coming and remembering these scenes that I couldn't wait to see again, and understanding, growing more love for certain characters I weren't sure about the first time round. I loved it back then, and I probably loved it even more now. And I read this whole series with Matthew over at Matthew Reads and Writes, and we had the absolute best time. I cannot explain how much more fun it was, not only to enjoy and love these books, but to discuss it scene by scene along the way, describing to each other the scenes and how much we loved certain characters and certain moments, and explaining and describing and experiencing it together just made it 10 times better. Thanks Matthew so much for reading this for me and for keeping up with our constant insane essays of love and joy and excitement, because we go into detail. It was just so much fun. And this book, in case you are unaware, this book is set in a Japanese inspired world called Iwagato, and it's based around a lot of Japanese mythology and magical creatures and gods and things like that. So our main character is a kitsune, which is like a fox type human creature. They're called yokai. One of the things from reading this series is there's a lot of Japanese words that takes some getting used to, and there's so many words to remember. Like certain characters have like 3 different names. There is a lot of Japanese language in this, so they say, you know, Yumika-san, arigato and gomen, sayonara, all sorts of like Japanese words and languages. Tatsumi, one of the main characters, his name is Tatsumi, but he's also Kage-san because that's like how they refer to him. He's also called the God Slayer. He's also got a sword called the God Slayer. That's also called Kamagoroshi, but inside that is a demon called Hakimono. so there's one character that has like 7 names attached to him, and when you're first reading it, it takes a lot to remember all the names, let alone say them correctly in your head, which I'm probably doing all wrong, but trying my best. Anyway, so this series is about our kitsune, who's like a half fox, half human girl, and she's grown up in this monk's temple all her life, never getting to experience the outside world. And kitsunes are known for being tricksy. They got magic powers. They have kitsune bai, which is basically like a fire. They create illusions, and they're known tricksters, and to the extent where they can be very dangerous tricksters. And Yumiko is like suppressing her powers because the monks tell her you don't want to succumb to evil, and then she learns that there's this scroll called the Dragon Scroll, and every 1,000 years the great dragon god comes, the harbinger of change, and one mortal can have a wish granted if they have the pieces of the scroll. And the temple she lives in is protecting one of the pieces, but now there is all sorts of characters, all sorts of dark, dangerous people all trying to get their hands on the scroll so that they can make a wish, and a lot of these people who want to make a wish are not very good people, so they're going to bring about disaster and destruction. So Yumiko has to take this scroll on an adventure and protect it and keep it safe, and she comes across so many amazing characters and quests and journeys, and there's so many tasks and adventures and things they need to do. Each and every section of their story is like its own fairy tale. The writing is so vivid with imagery, and it's so gruesome and beautiful and lyrical at the same time. It's filled with this idea of honour. It uses all of your senses, and it's just a magical, and these characters are so beautiful and interesting and have so much depth and layers to them. The character dynamics and the dialogue is just so fun. This book was amazing, but this whole series has really captured my heart. So when we moved into Soul of the Sword, the book me or Matthew had read yet, this was an entirely new experience, and it just took the amazingness that Shadow of the Fox gave and upped it so much. People talk about middle book syndrome. No boringness here. This book got darker, more intense, more gruesome, especially with Hakimono. Like, he is brutal. I will warn anyone who doesn't like vicious, gruesome horror, because this is worse than any horror movie I've ever seen. There's this one scene, for example, where this demon rips apart a woman, and by rips apart, I mean it goes into detail about him ripping apart her ligaments and her spine. He claws out her organs. Julie Kagawa does not shy away from the gruesome details, which I kind of love, to be honest. This book ain't fooling around, so if you're squeamish about those type of things, be warned. This book was filled with so much heart and love. First book was really sweet, and it was like growing to love these characters and developing this union. This book, you ride or die for them. You fall in love and there's no coming back. These characters just become so much infinitely closer and greater. There is romance on the horizon for this book, and romance is always like an on or off one, but the romances in this book, me and Matthew were both utterly swooning over the couples in this book. There is one in particular, I won't go into detail, but I love them so much. Matthew, you know. You know which one I mean. Also, I don't want to be a spoiler alert person, but there is LGBT romance in this. There is a couple. I don't want to say too much and spoil what's going to happen. I don't want you to be trying to predict who it's going to be. But just know they have my entire heart and my soul, and I'm nothing without them. I'm not joking, guys. I seriously fell in love with them and almost every character, but there are a special few that I love so much. This book was sad and it was full of love and hope and fight and everything. Like I said, the magic of the first book, this one did again, but it added the gore, you up the stakes, and it added more romance and more friendship, and it just built, like, this is a perfect sequel. It built on everything the first one gave, and I absolutely loved it. And after reading that, I immediately had to go into Night of the Dragon, and this one is a lot shorter than the other two, which I wasn't worried by because that struck me as odd. You know, the first two books are a very certain similar length, and this one is a lot shorter, but that gave me the impression like, maybe she didn't shove it full of filler. For some reason that was a good sign to me, because I hate when you see books that are all the same size and there's always that worry that they've just done that on purpose to fill it with stuff they didn't need and bogged the book down. So when you see quite a descent in the page count, to me that's a good sign that they're paying more attention to the story than they are the size. But anyway, I read this book and it melted my brain. It may have been short, but my god, was it packed and tense. And honestly, if it was any longer, I think I might have had a heart attack before I got to the end. The stakes are triple, double, quadruple, times 10 what they were. Don't know how Julie Kagawa managed to up the ante to this level. And then she took all those beautiful, amazing character relationships that she'd grown stronger and completely tied you in with Soul of the Sword, and then decided to wreck your soul. I see what you did, Julie, I see you. This book was the most emotional, tense, heart-racing, edge of my seat finale, and I cried so many tears. Me and Matthew both weeping over the events. I will warn you, it will destroy your soul in the best possible way. Like, that's not a negative. Does it have a happy ending? That's a grey area. It's uplifting and hopeful, but also so desperately sad. The climax battle, like I said, it was short. This entire book was just like one gigantic climax. The entire thing was a boss fight that just somehow gets more dramatic, and you think it can't get more dramatic, and then it's more dramatic. The stakes were so insanely high, the characters were in so much danger, and you believed it. You know, like when you're reading a book and you're like, oh, you know, they'll fix it and they'll all live happily ever after. I know, because that's how books go. This book ain't like other girls, guys. Seriously, you knew that these characters could and would die at any moment. My heart was pounding, I was crying. I was reading this in bed next to my boyfriend and I'm just weeping, and he keeps looking like, are you okay? And I'm like, no. And he's like, do you want to stop reading? And I'm like, no. Just sobbing, I'm loving this book. It was embarrassing, like it was pathetic, and thanks Julie Kagawa for doing that to me, thanks. I enjoyed this book. The character relationships and dialogue was just perfect. The action was just indescribable. The stakes, the battle scenes, the boss fight, as I'm referring to it because it felt so massive, and like I said, you think it can't get more amazing and more epic and more large scale, and then it does, and then it does. Just the build up of these three novels was so ingenious, and the ending was so, I don't want to tell you what happens, but it was so sweet. And the epilogue, I loved the epilogue, it was so perfect. This book just destroyed me, if you couldn't tell. You know that like a trilogy always has those tropes. First book is just exposition. Nope. Exciting and full of beautiful characters and growth and ideas and action and fairy tale and magic. Oh, you know what the middle book's like? It's the boring one to get us from the beginning to the end, just filled with stuff in the middle. Just grow more in love with these characters and have more dangerous and brutal, gruesome situations. Feel the growth and the tenseness and the death. Just have all the stakes be higher and the romance be greater and more beautiful than ever before. And you know, that last book when it's a disappointment and it doesn't live up to the other two, or it goes somewhere and you didn't want it. The most exciting, epic, I think epic is the best word, epic, large scale, horrifically sad and heart racing, heart pounding, full of death ending that there ever was. Every single one of these books was just amazing in its own right. None of these suffered from any lag or bore or exposition or disappointment. And after reading this whole trilogy, I have fallen into a deep pit of love that I won't ever crawl out of. And I never expected. This series is in the favourites list, guys. Like, this was so good. It rose to a level I never thought it would go. I loved that first book, but I didn't realise the journey I was in for and the emotions and the deep pit of love that was to come. This is definitely in the hall of favourites, up there with my very best favourites, which is, that's saying a lot, guys. I don't give that away lightly or ever, and it's definitely, without question, my favourite fantasy series I have ever read. I'm saying it, there it is, my favourite fantasy series of all time. It's gonna take some beating, let me tell you. So yeah, the Asian readathon went pretty well. And literally, I finished Night of the Dragon last night. I'm still in shock. Me and Matthew have been discussing it. He finished Soul of the Sword and Night of the Dragon, I think, before I did. And then I was catching up and messaging him what was happening, like as it was happening. And he was like, I know! And he's trying not to spoil it. And we were discussing it as I was reading it. And it was just amazing. And every time I got to a new point, Matthew must have been like, oh, she's arrived at this part. Not only was the series absolutely incredible, but to read it and to have that experience of being able to message someone and let your feelings out. With Night of the Dragon, I could just cry with him. With Soul of the Sword, we could swoon together, and it just made everything so much better. I'm trying to calm down because that series is, it still hit me in the heart. And so, as stated in my Asian Readathon TBR, I did finish Spin the Dawn and the Shadow of the Fox trilogy as promised. I'm usually pretty good. Well, if I do set a TBR, I tend to follow them. I know that's a weird thing for BookTube, right? And then I haven't gotten to any other Asian books, but I do have a week left in May. I'm filming this a week ahead, and I have one book that I'm going to read in that week. So I'm going to talk about it now, but I won't get to properly review it now, although I think we all know where it's going. So now that I've read Night of the Dragon, and that's destroyed my soul, I need another book to escape into. I need to do it quick before the book hangover takes me. And I'm pleased that I have a book I am mega excited about to jump into. And next up, guys, I'm reading, drumroll please, an ARC copy of The Saviour's Sister by Jenna Moreci. Jenna Moreci sent me her ARC copy, the full book, The Saviour's Sister. You know, the one that comes out on September 29th. I have it now. When I got that message, my heart, guys, exploded. After I finished Night of the Dragon, I knew immediately what I was going to jump into, and that is The Saviour's Sister. Now, I have read the first, how many chapters? 3? 5? I've read the first few chapters just from her teasers, from her website and the pre-sale giveaway and all that stuff. So I have read the beginning of the book. I will go back and reread it though, and I want to read The Saviour's Sister just from the beginning to end. I have a PDF of the book. I don't have like a physical copy or an ebook copy or anything. I have the book. I don't care. I have the book to read. That's what's important. And so I will be reading that straight away. But it's so good so far. Thoroughly enjoying it. And Layla's perspective, it's such a fresh way. Even though it's going to take place at the same time as The Saviour's Champion, it is a completely new perspective, and I'm really enjoying the court politics and the palace life and the deception and the assassination plots, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far. I can't wait for the characters I know and love from the first one to come in and see it all from Layla's side. I'm really looking forward to it. It's so good so far. When you read the first chapter or the first 2 chapters of a Jenna Moreci book, you get sucked in. She has this amazing ability to just impact from the very beginning, and if you haven't read, you can go read those first like 2 chapters on her website. They're there. Go read them for free. So I'm thoroughly excited to finish The Saviour's Sister. Come on guys, we all know I'm gonna love it. We know. And that will probably be the last book I read in May, because I am moving in May, so I'm gonna be very busy and I'll have a week to read that book. I'm pretty sure that's the last book I'll read in May. I dropped off the Asian Readathon just for that last book. This is an ARC. I can't wait. There's no way I wasn't gonna read this next. Thank you so much for watching my May wrap up. I know it was a bit of a gushy one, just a brilliant reading month, and the Asian Readathon went really well for me. I'm pleased to report that every Asian book I read was fantastic. I didn't doubt that for a second, but it's good when you do a readathon and all the books in the readathon work out. Have you read any of these books? Do you now plan to read any of these books? Or what did you read in May? Any Asian books you read in May? I'd love to know. I'd love to chat with you in the comments. Has my enthusiasm for Shadow of the Fox tempted you to get it and read it? And it wouldn't be a bad thing if I transferred the love to you. Take this gift and run away. At the current time of uploading this video, I will be moving tomorrow. So all this is gone. If you have no idea about that, you can watch my last video, my moving announcement, just to get caught up on what's happening in my life right now and my next videos and all that stuff. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like it if you enjoyed it. It's only a little click of a button and it makes my heart so unbelievably happy because I love talking to you guys in the comments. Literally, notifications have been a bit funny lately, but I go on my channel and click on my videos just to check that there's no more new comments because I am that eager to read your comments and respond to your comments. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of these books or what you read. I would really love to know. And if you've watched a video or two of mine, maybe you've watched a fair few, maybe this is your first one, please subscribe. With me moving on from this place and going onwards and upwards towards the future, I'd love you to join me there. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next house and my next video. Bye.